listening to The Gender Rebels.
I'm Kathleen, a cis woman and ally.
And I'm Faith, a trans woman.
Gender Rebels is a question and answer podcast that explores life outside the gender binary.
A big thanks to our Patreon supporters.
If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/genderrebels. Faith, I got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Do we have any patrons to thank?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yay!
We love our patrons.
Yes.
And to Aaron, Willow, and April. Thank you guys so much. You're so awesome. And it's so great of you to support us.
We really, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. What is it? April?
Aaron and Willow.
Aaron and Willow. Thank you. Thank you.
You guys are amazing.
Faith, I got another question.
Sure. What's your question?
Here it comes. How do I get started on hormones? When I say I mean a young transgender person, or a middle-aged transgender person, or an older transgender person.
Yes.
How does it all begin? How do you go?
How to get on hormones. Okay, so this is actually a huge question, because for me, this was such a stumbling block for so long.
Really?
Because I didn't know how to get on hormones. And I had long looked on the internet and things. Okay, I'm 38. Mm-hmm. Let's just clear the air here. No, you're not supposed to ask a young woman how old she is, but nope. I'm 38, born in 1980. So when I first moved to New York and kind of had the freedom to start exploring gender and transgender topics and things like that on the then burgeoning internet, mm-hmm. I was always looking up things like that, hormones and things, hormones and transgender topics, mm-hmm. and everyone was on hormones. It was like, oh, first you got to get on hormones, and then transition starts.
So that was right from the beginning. You knew that was a really important step.
Yes.
Did you feel it was a mandatory step?
Yes.
Okay. Some people opt not to. Yeah, but okay.
Some people take hormones without necessarily transitioning to another binary gender. They mm-hmm. might identify queer, but they like those hormones. Mm-hmm. Or bigender, and they kind of like the way the hormones make them feel.
Or non-binary, and they like how it sort of zeroes out
mm-hmm.
that.
And there's plenty of transgender people who live full-time and have wonderful, amazing lives as their
actual gender, and
they're never on hormones.
Okay. So it's not mandatory, but a lot of people seem to think it is, and I mean, it certainly helps, I'm guessing.
It does. It definitely helps.
Okay.
I've been on them for over 2 years, and mm-hmm. I like it, so it's been good. I enjoy the effects, and we've talked about the effects, of course, on other episodes, and we'll link those down below.
Mm-hmm.
But
how do you get to that point?
I didn't know. That was the thing. I didn't really know. I'd talked to other people, and I've been like, well, how do you get on hormones? And it's always like, go to a doctor.
Right. It's medicine. Go to a doctor.
Back in my day, though, it wasn't a medical doctor. You had to go to like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some sort of therapist. It was always the word therapist, and I was never quite sure what that was. Mm-hmm. For those of you in countries with good health care, here in the U.S., we don't have good healthcare, and it can be often very difficult to navigate even a basic thing like getting a general practitioner if you have insurance or if you don't. Mm-hmm. And I kind of was one of those people who I would go to the doctor when my leg was about to fall off and was hanging on by an artery, and that was about it. Every other circumstances, I would not go to a doctor.
Because, especially if you're young and relatively healthy, you can't afford it. Or whatever plan you're on isn't.
Yeah,
really
I had health
great.
insurance, but it was still like, no one likes going to the doctor, and I didn't really like going to the doctor.
True.
I still don't particularly like going to the doctor. They stopped giving me a lollipop long time ago, which is stupid. So I didn't really know how to get a therapist. I knew you had to. So I actually one time made an appointment with a therapist, and I had just kind of picked one. I think I had the big telephone book that
Yellow Pages, huh?
Not the Yellow Pages, but your health care at your job would give you this big provider directory.
Yes,
and I looked through there and found a therapist, and I wanted a female therapist, so I was very into that idea. And I was like, okay, I'll reach out to this therapist, I'll talk to this therapist, and she'll put me on hormones.
Yes.
Because you have to be diagnosed with gender identity disorder, as it was called at the time. Okay. And I was like, okay, I'll call this therapist, I'll make an appointment. So I did. And then I was too scared to actually say
follow through.
Gender identity disorder, or I'm trans, or anything like that.
So you did go to the appointment, you sat down with this therapist.
I bullshitted for 40 minutes about other stuff that I kind of just made up.
So, I'm stressed at work.
Yeah, it was
money problems. I drink too much. You just made shit up?
I made shit up.
Oh,
and because I was too afraid to bring up transgender topics, so I was like, okay. bye, I'll leave. And then I left.
And you never saw her again.
Never saw her again. I had no idea how to get on hormones. I was like, okay, you got to talk to a therapist. You got to do this. And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And you still hear this from a lot of people. A lot of people will say you got to go to a therapist. But I finally reached out to, some people on MySpace, including my very, very good MySpace friend, Jamie Clayton.
Sorry, what? Your very good friend?
Very good MySpace friend.
Your very good friend.
MySpace friend, yes.
Oh, you're very good.
I reached out to a MySpace friend who was not famous at that point, but was a very beautiful lady. And I was amazed by her. And she lived in New York. Mm-hmm. And she was like friends of a friend.
That's cool.
And it was like not really my close friend, but it was like my friend was friends with her friend. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like
close enough.
Tangential enough to the point where once upon a time she showed up on my Facebook. This was like years ago. Again, not famous yet.
Right.
She showed up on my Facebook as like recommended. And I was like so tempted to like add her as a friend, but then I was like, no, I didn't.
All right,
so,
fine.
I don't want to be a creepster.
You might have shown up on her recommended.
I might have.
That's how the algorithm works.
Yeah, but I was a guy on Facebook then, so it would have been stupid.
Okay.
So, point is, I reached out to her and I was like, how do you get on hormones? And she told me, reach out to Callen-Lorde. So I did.
What's Callen-Lorde?
Callen-Lorde Community Health Center is an LGBTQ health center here in New York City. Mm-hmm. They help LGBTQ people with various types of health, including like dental, just general wellness, hormone treatments, and they do it regardless of the ability to pay.
Nice.
Yeah, link down below.
We're big fans of them.
Yeah. And I went there, made an appointment. I think it took about 2 months. It was a 2-month waiting list for an appointment.
Yeah.
But I made the appointment, and even then I was super nervous to call.
Even though you knew it was LGBT
yes.
Q Health Center, even though you knew it was the safest of safe spaces.
But I had to call and
recommended it.
I had to call and be like, I just need to make an appointment for stuff. Just my friend wants to get on hormones and HRT hormones, just like estrogen, whatever. And that's probably
so cute.
That's probably every other call they get.
They get that call every day.
Yeah. So, I went there, and because they're an LGBTQ health center, they did informed consent. They did make me meet with a therapist or counselor or something like that. I'm not exactly sure of the person's credentials. Mm-hmm. They might have been a psychiatrist. They might have been
they weren't a
psychologist. They might have been a psychic.
Probably not
on the side. Everyone's got
a side gig.
A side gig,
A hustle.
What do they call it? A side hustle, yes. So it might have been a side hustle.
Mm.
But they do that first, and I think that's just to make sure you're not going to harm yourself.
Okay.
Or harm others.
Okay.
I think the person who shows up with a knife, banging it on the counter, give me the hormones, they might not let you.
Then you talk to our police officer here.
Yeah. But I also met with a doctor after that, and, they gave me a blood test to see how my body would handle it. Mm-hmm. I was actually denied hormones the first time.
Wait, why?
Because I smoked cigarettes.
Oh.
And you cannot be on hormones if you could be on hormones if you smoke cigarettes. We don't recommend that.
Yeah.
Check our episodes with our endocrinologist friend.
Dr. HD for Hormones Demystfied.
Yes, and
link down below.
We talk about some of the medical effects down there, but right now this is just about getting on them. I ended up coming back, and I ended up quitting smoking with that doctor's help, and eventually did get my hormones.
Wow, and you quit smoking entirely to get on hormones?
Yes, I did. Help my life in many other ways, but
that's much money.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, I mean, that is great, and I'm so happy you got on hormones, and you're clearly happier, and you visit Callen-Lorde, and they've been taking care of you this whole time, and they're awesome, and we love them. But that sounds to me like the perfect situation. Like
it is.
That had gone as well as it possibly could have. Like, you walked into the welcoming arms of an LGBT clinic that didn't even care if you could pay,
Yes.
Like, you had to wait, and that's a drag, and you had to quit smoking and then come back, and that's a drag. But what about our other listeners who don't have Callen-Lorde?
Well, one of the things I would recommend to people, obviously Callen-Lorde's New York City based. I've heard of people coming from as far as Massachusetts for their appointments.
To come to Callen-Lorde?
Yes.
Wow,
and there could be people from DC. I don't know, because you're only coming there how many times a year?
Oh, sure.
Maybe once, twice a year. Actually, for me, I think it's I want to say every 3 months you got blood checked for the first year, and then they kind of make it 6 months. So
But in theory, it's
twice
a blood
a year.
test. You could do that if you come from Massachusetts and you work with them, right? In theory, you could get your blood tested in Massachusetts
and give the results to them.
Exactly.
I mean, that's something you would have to work out with your doctor.
Sure, but that's
You could also
clearly not an option.
You could
for
conceivably
everyone.
even fly in twice a year if that was within your budget. Obviously, that's not always the ideal case.
Mm-hmm.
I would say first, if you're in an area where you don't think you have an LGBTQ health center or a resource like that, do some Googling.
Mm-hmm.
Check with any other LGBTQ or trans group in your area.
Yeah, any
Find
organization.
out. There might be one 2 towns over. There might be one in your town that you don't even know about. I lived in New York City for years and was Googling trans stuff all the time and had no idea Callen-Lorde existed. So do some Googling, do some sleuthing, reach out to other people in your area and find out if such a center or, options like that exist.
And even if a center doesn't exist, maybe they know a handful of doctors who have worked with other
Exactly.
people who are friendly and helpful and know what to do and know to say things like, I'm not giving you this because you smoke. Like they know the restrictions, they know the right way to do hormones. There might be a handful of them right in your community. One of them might be in your health plan, but the only way to find out is to ask. Ask your friends, or even just ask at any LGBT center.
Yeah. And you could also reach out to your GP, your general practitioner.
If you like your doctor, if you trust your doctor, and hopefully you do, because that's an important part of being a good doctor.
In the United States, the guidelines for HRT are informed consent. And what that means is that you don't have to go through a therapist gatekeeper. You don't have to have a diagnosis of gender identity disorder from a psychiatrist. You need to have a doctor explain the risks and possible side effects. And
there are risks and side effects.
yes,
Those are real.
to let you know kind of how, what you're getting into. And then you can take them. That's informed consent. And that is actually the standard of care in the United States now.
Do you think every doctor knows that?
No,
Okay.
I think it's probably not very common that doctors know this. Because again, a general practitioner in, Rapid City, Iowa is not keeping up with the day-to-day developments in transgender care. But
Not necessarily.
We'll link down below to some resources identifying that, and you can always, if you meet with a doctor and they say no, you can say, well, that's the guidelines, and here's the guidelines. And if they still say no, you can reach out to another doctor.
Which can be frustrating and expensive, and sometimes doctors have months wait before they're available. You might need to be patient with this, but you can't do this without a doctor. We really don't recommend doing this without a doctor. One other option is Planned Parenthood.
Yes, absolutely.
If there is one in your area, or one 2 towns over, or one within reach somehow, and they're pretty sparse on the ground, unfortunately. But they have started to do the informed consent route for getting hormones. So make an appointment there, talk to your people there, and the same thing.
Yeah.
By the informed consent route, you could get your blood tests and your meds right there.
And if you want to go through a therapist, that is, of course, always an option. Some people find that therapy can provide a great benefit to them.
If you feel like maybe you want to talk to a therapist, I strongly recommend it. It is very good to get a grip on your mental health. It's really proactive. It can help you a lot, especially if you're going through something like transition, which is a big stressor.
Yeah.
And life is already a big stressor.
It is. Now, you're a psychiatrist. Not really. You have a degree in psychiatry. No?
No, I have a degree in neuroscience.
Oh, what's your master's in?
Neuroscience.
Oh, okay. Kathleen does not have a degree in psychiatry, but she is an SP, so you do know.
I am a suppressive person.
You do know a little bit about it.
Totally.
So, psychologists, there's licensed therapists, there's psychologists, there's psychiatrists. Kind of what's the difference?
Good question. So, a psychologist has a master's degree or a PhD in psychology. A psychiatrist is an actual MD. They actually went to med school.
Okay.
They're a doctor.
Yeah.
They can prescribe, and they have advanced training in psychiatry. And then sometimes subspecialties like child psychiatry or gender psychiatry or things like that. In the case of a psychologist, they won't be able to prescribe anything to you.
Yes.
But they can refer you to a doctor who will prescribe it for you.
Okay.
So if you do find a psychologist who is a therapist, they might be a degree in psychology. They might be a degree in social work. Also, masters of social work can be therapists and can refer you to doctors to write prescriptions. Any of these, if your plan covers them, if you find them that you can afford, if you find someone that you click with, any of them can be of great, great help to you. I believe people with master's degrees probably charge less.
Yeah.
But that's not a hard and fast rule, especially someone who's like really experienced or really specialized. That might affect the price. In all cases, these people can help you. I believe MDs, so actual psychiatrists, tend to not have as much time for that. But again, there's a lot of variety there. So
Okay, so you can find some possibilities, but you're going to have to call around.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you already know what you want and you don't feel like you need therapy and this isn't causing you a huge amount of distress and you just want to get on the hormones, yes, start with your general practitioner or your family doctor. If you can, if your health plan covers it, just call an endocrinologist. See
Yes.
who's covered in your plan and dive in. They probably do a lot of work with diabetes, but they know about transgender treatment as well.
Yes. Excellent. Again, Google is going to be your real friend here. And you're going to need to reach out to people in your area potentially as well to find out what resources are there. Obviously, in like more rural areas, there's going to be fewer resources. You might have to travel more, which sucks and isn't fair. But, you know, if there's a smaller town, they're not going to have as many trans people as, say, San Francisco. And that's just the breaks, and that sucks. But Google, because it may surprise you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of Google, don't Google how to self-administer hormones or how to get them online. I know this could be tempting for someone who doesn't have access to a doctor, for someone who doesn't have health insurance. Getting these hormones online can be such a huge temptation. Boom, I can just get them.
Don't.
And I can probably get them cheaper than I can, you know, going through a legit doctor without health insurance.
Don't.
It's going to seem like such a great opportunity to self-medicate, to take care of this yourself, to just get this done cheaply.
To get it done now.
I understand it's totally frustrating. Even with a single doctor, it may be gatekeeping. Even with it might take multiple doctors. I understand. Being able to click like buy now and just have them or get them through a friend or something could totally be... Take the stress away. You could just have them. You could just be done with this whole stupid jumping through hoops and just have them. But
you're kind of selling it, actually.
It's not worth it because blood clots are friggin' serious.
Hormones are very powerful things.
You can screw your liver up.
And you can't replace your liver. Your liver doesn't grow back. They're very powerful. And like Faith had explained in another episode, they started her out on a low dose. And they did it after the blood test. And they monitored her blood. That's checking liver function to make sure it's operating fine with these doses. They monitored her blood the whole time. And then gradually upped the dose. It is so tempting to just jump in and take the biggest dose right from the start. I get it. Don't. Please don't. Just take the time and do it right.
Exactly.
With a doctor.
And you may have undiagnosed liver problems you're not aware of. And blood clots can kill you.
Yeah, they can.
In a matter of hours. They're a incredibly serious health issue. A blood clot can be in an artery. It can break free. If that gets to your heart or one of the major arteries leading to your brain, that can be fatal.
You can have a stroke.
It can be fatal very quickly.
There are risks. I don't want you to do it. Please don't do it. Please.
Yes. Please. Like I said, when I was afraid to talk to that psychiatrist, or whatever they were, psychologist. It was probably a psychologist. Going on hormones, you're gonna have to talk to someone about your dealing with gender issues. You are going to have to. There's no getting around it. That may be another reason people want to go online, because I can just do it without talking to anyone.
No
I
one
can
needs
just
to know.
Trust me. I don't like calling people. I don't like talking on the phone.
Certainly don't like face-to-face conversations.
Exactly. But if I can just order it online, it'll be so much simpler. Now you have to talk to someone. This is the time to build up your courage. because transition is going to take a lot more courage than that.
This is the first step.
First steps are super important, or can be super. This doesn't have to be the first step, but this can be a first step.
Yeah.
And it can be a major one, and it can change your life, hopefully for the better. And you're going to have to just talk to someone. You're going to have to blurt out, hey, I'm transgender, or hey, I'm dealing with this, and you're just going to have to do it.
What if you had written her a note? Would that have worked? You're a psychologist way back when. What if you had just written it out and handed it to her silently?
I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that.
Yeah,
I think the only way I could have done it is if I showed up like really fucking drunk, and then I would have blurted it out. But I don't think they help you if you're that drunk.
And it would call into question the validity of what you're saying.
Exactly.
Like, well, you have to be drunk to say this, and maybe it's not a thing. Except in vino veritas. Let us know how you found your meds, how you were able to get started. All of our listeners, did you go through a doctor? Did you go through Planned Parenthood? Did you talk to a therapist? How did it start? Let us know your experience and your advice for our other listeners.
Yeah, let us know how you have managed to navigate this. If you have any resources that we didn't bring up here, we'd love to hear about them, and we can share them with our listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Faith. That's very helpful and interesting.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, everyone.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this episode and want to help us keep making more great content, go to patreon.com/genderrebels.
We have many different levels of support and lots of great rewards,
including drinks with the Gender Rebels at Stonewall.
Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. That makes it easier for other people to find us.
And send your questions to questions@genderrebels.com, or find us on Twitter @TheGenderRebels.
Music for The Gender Rebels is by Jasper the Colossal. Follow the link down below or download them on iTunes today.
And for all our episodes, visit genderrebels.com.
The Gender Rebels is a Come Back Sync production, copyright 2018. All rights reserved.
And to all you gender rebels out there, keep rebelling.
Bye.
Bye.